I have no doubt you guys, I take my hat for you guys being able to sit in the room for an entire day. I'm like you guys, I'm a handyman, so I love being on the tools, using my hands. Sitting in a room all day is the hardest thing I could ever possibly do. You took the clicker. Sweet, I'll take that.
Isn't it what two is one and one? On the side.
Yeah, sweet. So yeah, this one a bit different for the rest of the day that you guys been listening to. Okay, yeah, sweet. Some dudes coming in to talk about mental health. I know for some of you that would be like, oh my God, are you serious? Other guys in here will completely understand because instead of talking about, as Clint just said, about your profession, this is humanity. This is you as an individual, as a person. And it's a conversation that is far more important than most people ever lead on. Trigger warning for today. Most of us have all been through some kind of shit in our lives. So if I do trigger you in your own way, please just, if you need to stand up, leave the room. Just give us a thumbs up. Let me know that you're okay. Take your time, do whatever you need to do. Please, if you can, come back in and join the rest of the presentation. But you do whatever it is that you need to do. Where to begin? I never could have imagined that the greatest battle that I would ever face was not out there on the battlefield amidst the bullets, the bombs, the guns, or the explosions, no, but would instead be right here, back home, in the comfort of my own lounge chair. For it was here that I would meet an enemy that would show no mercy, and meet an enemy that would get closer to killing me than anything else ever did. Growing up, I was a pretty average kind of kid. I was not in the cool group at school. Hung out in the chess room most days. Yeah, man, I was wicked. I did not have any book smarts or any unsung talents, no, but there was one thing that I did possess, and I had more of it than I ever could have imagined. And that was this unrelenting drive and ambition to succeed and achieve. You see, my brothers and I were brought up living in a shadow. Not just any old shadow, but a shadow rich in success, accomplishment, and achievement. My grandfather was not only a prestigious man, but also a visionary of his time. He was a man who performed great noble deeds, leaving behind a legacy worthy of being remembered. But in the wake of his tall stories came a young boy's idealised account, an idealistic version of what success looked like, what it meant to be a man, and what was required to achieve the same. And so in his shadow, I went on a dangerous quest to earn the same myself. Within the 4 years of finishing high school, by the ripe old age of 21, I had already earned a Certificate 3 in geoscience. I had worked in the mines. I'd worked on the oil rigs. I was a volunteer firefighter for the Country Fire Service. I'd joined the army, and I'd risen to the ranks of Special Forces. I was young, but I was on the move. I became a Spec Ops engineer, trained and specialising in explosives, demolitions, IED warfare, high-risk search, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear warfare, and advanced decontamination, just to name a few. But in wartime, our primary job role was the search and clearance of improvised explosive devices. In short, my job was to find the buried bombs hidden in the ground. A dangerous job, and a job where every step could have potentially have been my last. The sheer tempo of my newfound unit was nothing short of exhilarating. At 21, I was supporting TAG East, which is the military domestic counter-terrorism unit, sort of military version of SWAT, like fast roping out of choppers. At 22, I did my first tour to Afghanistan, where on your average tour within SOCOM, SOTG, teams might find 2 or 3 of these IEDs, but our team alone found over 20, a marked increase. At 23, I want to do more, be more, and have more. So I decided I wanted to do went off and did SAS selection. Who here's seen the TV show SAS Australia? It's pretty much the course that inspired that TV show. Brutal. Over the space of, I lost just under 15 kilos in the space of just 21 days. And out of 120 soldiers at the pinnacle of their game that started, only 28 of us were left standing there at the very end. And then I remember sitting there in the interview, having finished one of the toughest courses in the world, and I remember the head dude saying, "Nathan, you're amazing what you do, but the panel do not find you suitable to continue into the next phase. You want to kick a high achiever in the teeth." And I'm like, telling me it's not suitable. I'm like, but not to worry. So I went back to my unit and found myself redeployed back to Afghanistan just 5 months later on a tour that ended up being far rougher than my first. Over the course of my 2 tours, I was blown up twice. My vehicle hit an IED, hit one of those and exploded. And I was standing next to another vehicle when that too exploded. I've had RPGs fly meters over my head. I've had RPGs fly straight past our chopper in mid-flight. I was missed by an enemy sniper by half a metre from almost 2 kilometres away. It's split me and mate just down the middle. Hell of a shot. I have contemplated and accepted my own death laying on top of these IEDs. I've been pinned down by enemy gunfire, and I've had a Taliban soldier open up at me in the open with a machine gun from not even 100 metres away. Me and 2 commandos I was working with found ourselves pinned down the side of this hill. Do you guys know what bullets sound like when they fly past your shoulder? It's like, they sound little bees when they buzz past your ear. And I remember hiding behind a rock no bigger than like your mum's watering can, and you hear the rounds just coming in thick and thin, and you see the rock in front of your face wobble back and forth. Good times. However, with that said, I've also carried mates off the battlefield. I have lost mates, and I've inevitably seen enough death to last me a lifetime. But none other situation compares to the night I found myself having to clear this old Russian fighting pit. I hate the story. It was about 2 a.m, -10, and we'd just finished a 7-kilometre infill walk onto target. I was with a team that was to climb to the top of this mountain and help clear it of any IEDs to overwatch for the clearance that coming morning. I remember we got to the top of the hill and they were like, "Bolts, you're up, mate." And I remember walking to the front of the group of guys that I was working with, and I remember just seeing this trench system just stretching out across the top of this hill. And all you could see was the shades of green, green and black through the lenses of your night vision goggle. And I was like, just death lingering at every step. Before I got in, my mission orders ran through my head like a broken record. Now, like, "Bolts, we know there's IEDs in that trench that you're about to clear, so keep your wits about you." And I'm like, "Yeah, sweet, no dramas, it's my job, I'll sort it out." But it was after the mission brief where I got pulled aside by the intelligence guys, and they were like, "Nathan, we know that the enemy know our TTPs, our search procedures. You're about to use a metal detector to find bombs that have no metal in them. Godspeed. Welcome to the worst night of my life." I remember I was on my guts, crawling through, working hard for every inch of ground that I managed to cut clear. And the ground had actually snap frozen nearly an inch thick. And so I had to literally use, I had to bash through the top inch of dirt to see what was underneath. Who needs a intrinsically safe metal detector or mine product for ADF issue when you can go to local Bunnings and get the best bomb hunting tool ever, $12. Bunnings, people. And I remember bashing through this top dirt, and I remember seeing this huge chunk of icy dirt break free, and I remember the opportunity I felt to capitalize on removing such a large portion of dirt. However, in the backwards motion of removing the large chunk of dirt out of the way, suddenly a package the size of a tissue box came flying out of the wall from a meter in front of me and landed directly in front of my face. Instantly, I knew what I had done, and I had just committed the biggest sin in dealing with these IEDs, these bombs, and disturbed it. No training prepares you for a moment like this. I froze, complete shutdown, as I was completely overwhelmed by capacity to cope. What felt like eternity was probably more so like 30 seconds when my mind finally did come back into the present moment. I remember seeing the red electrical tape wrapped around what looked like D-cell batteries. However, as I gazed at it and looked at it, suddenly I could see the electrical wire running out of it. It did this perfect little loop and then ran directly in the dirt underneath me. I was laying on the pressure plate, the switch, and I had missed it. Take two. Complete shutdown. I was like, this is it. Your number's up. You're alive right now, but any second you probably won't be. Move and die. What felt like eternity, once again, probably another 30 seconds or so, I finally managed to come back into the present moment. And then training kicked in finally. And my training kicked in and started saying, Nathan, the most likely place that the switch is going to be is centralized to this trench. So if you brace your arms as wide as you can, your legs as wide as you can, you might be able to get out of this. So there I am trying to do the old splayed knees, splay elbows, and before I knew it, there I was planking over a live IED. Proud moment. From there, I managed to finally flick myself up and get to my knees. And once I got to my knees, I remember just stopping for a moment to take stock. And I remember looking around, taking a few deep breaths to try to get just where I'm at. And then when I was there kneeling, looking around, suddenly I turned around, and there, directly behind me, I saw 5 commandos sitting in the trench right behind me, completely oblivious to what is transpiring right in front of them. I can still feel the tightness of my jaw as I tried to piece the words together. And I'm like, guys, I'm laying on an IED. Move away now. Obviously, they didn't have to be told twice. They jumped shit faster than Flash Gordon himself. Now, once they got out of the trench, there, I was left to my own devices, and what happens next was mine and mine alone to bear. From there, I finally managed to get to my feet, and from there, I managed to jump up and did this funky old commando roll sort of thing out of the trench. And I remember I stood up, and I could see dawn was approaching, and in one of the most traumatic moments of my life, I stood there and I'm like, woo, that was close. That's all the vocabulary, all the words I had for literally one of the most taxing and traumatic moments of my life. I was like, stuff this. I'm not dealing with this right now. I'll get a tech up here. I'm done searching for tonight. A explosive dude can come up here. He can deal with it in the morning. I'm done. Turns out the tech came up in the morning. The pressure plate was directly underneath my chest. So if I had actually taken one more bite forward, I would have set it off. However, the reality is that the main explosive wasn't directly underneath me. It was directly underneath the 5 guys, the 5 commandos sitting in the trench directly behind me. almost costing my own life. I could deal with that because I wouldn't have to. But almost costing the lives of 5 of my mates. That I did not take too kindly on myself. And although we all got out alive that night, for many years, I actually believed that I had failed. This night would never leave me. For what happened in these moments for many years, I was unable to describe. The dread, the fear, the unknown, the aloneness, the end. No words existed to make sense out of what my eyes had seen or what I had been through. And so my lips fell silent, and I buried this moment and many others like it as deep and as distant as I could. But not too long after this incident, one of my good mates ended up standing on an IED and it detonated. And as I hastily worked over him doing first aid, he laid there in his last possible moments here on this earth, not asking for success, money, a fancy watch or a nice car, or any of the things that so many of us hold of so much value these days. No. In his last possible moments, he only ever asked for 2 things: his friends and his family. You learn hard and fast at a very young age what is truly important in life. Money and toys will come and go, but it is your friends and your family that will mourn for your loss. You will be remembered by the way that you made others feel, not the way you treated your toys. These days I say, leave a legacy, not a Lamborghini. And that is a lesson that I will never forget. By now, I was just 24. I've been told that within the 6 years of finishing high school, I had lived more in my short life than many may live in a lifetime. The stories I'd always wanted and the adventures that I strove to live, I had done them. I left school on a mission, and I was hitting this world real hard, chasing lofty ambition by none other than the sheer belief that I could. I'd stood tall at the tip of the spear at war, and I had lived to tell the tale. And now, backed by a life full of experience, I had a full life ahead of me and a world to conquer and succeed in. But when I came home from this tour, something was different. Something was off. There was something stirring, a pain like I had never felt. And this was no physical pain. No, that I was well and truly used to. No, this was something else. And it was so overwhelming, so intense. Felt like it was ripping me apart from the inside out. And so, unsure of what it was, I did my best to ignore it and made use of the one and only coping strategy that I had in my possession. I bottled it and I buried it as deep and as distant as I could, out of sight, out of mind. I pushed it aside, hoping and ultimately believing that it will all just go away. But by the age of 26, with the Afghan war now long behind me, I found myself battling a new war. A war that no person ever plans to prepare for, but a war of unparalleled intensity. The proud, confident, and ambitious man that had left for war returned home a stranger. The mirror showed the reflection of a man I still knew, but the man underneath was no longer me. I became shackled by the tortures of my own thoughts, a mind crippled by its past, an empty vessel, alive but by no means living. I was trapped in this place of limbo, confused by my own thoughts, the same and very thoughts that I had always trusted and had taken me to the pinnacle of success. Did nothing more now than reinforce my own pathetic being, my own weakness, my own fragility. They told me I was useless. They told me I was worthless. And they called me a burden to my mates. I could no longer fathom that someone could love me. Couldn't even fathom why my friends even liked me. And I became ashamed of my own inability to cope and ashamed that I'd let everybody down. And by the age of 27, tired and exhausted, I finally ran out of reasons. My mind was just gone, just devoured by this darkness. The pain inside was just so great. I just wanted to escape. Sleep. Sleep was all I desired. And to sleep forever became the most merciful thing. I was done. My entire life, I'd always been the one throwing all the punches, and suddenly found myself on the receiving end, hit by an uppercut that I did not see coming, a blow that knocked me flat on the floor and ultimately took me to the brink of wanting to end it all. But at this point, I did manage to get just one thing right. With nothing left, I finally reached out and got help. And only now was I truly ready to accept that I was no superhero. I'm no elite warrior, no highly trained, cold-blooded killer. No. I am just an ordinary man struggling with what he has been through and what life has thrown at him, just like anybody else. And only now did I finally realize that if I had all the answers I needed to help myself, well, then I wouldn't be in this God-forsaken position that I'm in right now in the first place. And so with the support of a psychologist, the period that followed would best be described as the greatest battle I would ever face. I had to delve deep into the heart of my memories and resurface all the pain, all the suffering, and all the trauma that I'd spent so many years trying to bury and forget. Over and over, I had to bring it all out, and by God did it hurt. But I had to, because I had to learn to somehow make sense out of what my eyes had seen and what I had been through. I had to learn to make sense of it so that one day, just maybe, I could finally allow it all to rest. And so starting with the basics, I slowly worked to unravel the damage that my experiences in life had caused, such as life has meaning, life has purpose. A big one for me was that I'm still a good person, although I have done bad things, and that I'm ultimately deserving of a second chance. Some people would call this soul searching. Nah, shit, man, I was just looking for me. But then, years later, after years of hard work, the penny finally dropped when a childhood dream presented itself. For under the blanket she slept, an old school off-road racing sidecar that my dad used to race back in the 80s. Beaten and battered by a long, rough life, she was in need of a lot of work and best described as ready for the scrap heap. But within its battered shell, I saw myself and a feeling that was mutual. Like the story of the racehorse, Seabiscuit, where a broken jockey and a cast-aside horse, they find the best in each other and give each other the chance that nobody else would. And so over the next 12 months, I project managed a complete overhaul and restoration of the old warhorse, the old three-wheeled chariot, and brought it back to her former glory. And in the process, rejuvenated my own sense of purpose, spirit, and sense of direction. This small step carried me further than I ever could have imagined. And within the space of a couple of years, I had a mantelpiece full of trophies from sidecar racing. I found myself becoming a mental health advocate to support others who had walked a similar path. I found myself appointed on councils and committees on the topic of suicide prevention and early intervention. I became a youth mentor where I could use the pain and the struggles of my own past to try to help and inspire others, the next generation, find their way through theirs. And I became a keynote speaker. As terrifying as it is to stand in front of a group of strangers and bare your soul on the whim that they actually give a shit. What most people don't actually know is that I actually deal with pretty bad anxiety. My psychologist calls it a exaggerated persona, where I've got about this 2-hour window where I can just like spit absolute verbal glory and then come down pretty hard on the other side. But in the end, I'm like, that's the cards that I have. And I wouldn't be standing here in front of you today if it wasn't for the experience that I've been through. I guess that's just, in order for me to do this and something that I love, that's just the hand that I've been dealt with. And it's something I just have to deal with. It's just a limitation, just another part of my life. But I became a guest speaker to not only break the very stigma that stopped me getting the help when I needed it most, but to also inspire and remind others that life does exist after struggle. My life went from 0 to hero in what felt like overnight. Probably another few years. But by all accounts, I was back. And now here I stand before you at age 37, spring chicken, plenty of miles left in this tank, sharing with you all this story for just one simple reason. From the wise words of our beloved Rocky Balboa, Adrian. I cracked myself up. That's not what I was going with. But from Rocky, it's not about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Those last 3 words, keep moving forward, they are the toughest of them all. I always thought it was my war experiences that made a man out of me. No. They were merely just a catalyst that would set into motion this chain of events that would ultimately test me right to my very core. They taught me to never lose hope. And as dark or as bleak as the day may find you, there is always tomorrow. As one sun sets, another will rise, and with that, another opportunity to move on from yesterday. Your lowest point is not a place to fear, but more so a place to learn. As Friedrich Nietzsche, a famous philosopher, once said, only great pain is the ultimate liberator of the spirit. And I doubt that such pain makes us better, but I know it makes us more profound. It is that of our struggles that are the prime movers within our day-to-day lives, for it is they that force us to make the tough decisions. Yes, they are our pain, and yes, they are our suffering, but they are also our greatest teacher, passing on the lessons in life that we will never forget. In closing, on top of post-traumatic stress disorder, major depression, anxiety, and losing nearly 7 years of my life to severe mental ill health, I have hearing loss and tinnitus from gunfires from when my vehicle exploded. I have a compressed spine, T3 to T6 from a military parachuting accident. I have damaged both ligaments in both my shoulders. I've torn the cartilage in my knee a couple of times. I have minimal cartilage left in my hips. And I've had bilateral hip surgery that not only required nearly 2 years of rehab, but also ended my career. But it's funny, because with everything said and done, I still seem to get asked the same old question. Nathan, for the injuries that you have sustained and the way your life is now, was it all worth it? Now, that is the question of all questions. But my answer to that was this. For the mates that I have made, the stories that I have to tell, but more importantly, the man that I have become today, I wouldn't change a thing. But we all knew there was a but in there somewhere. But be fucked if I'd ever do it all again. And that's the beauty of growing old. You only have to do it once. Live and learn, follow your dreams, but never give up on yourself. And at the end of your days, die as a proud old person, having lived a life worth living, and proud of the person that your grandkids will be able to remember you by. Thank you. So I do open the... Thanks, everyone. I do open the floor to a Q&A. I understand Q&As in a room like this full of blokes is going to be a challenging thing to kick off, but I'm an open book. If anyone has any questions, please just throw them my way and I'll do my best to answer them. After that, I'll also have a video that I'll show you guys. I wore a GoPro on my tours and I turned it into like a 5-minute highlight video for you guys to be able to watch. No gore or anything like that, but you get to see some of the shit that I got to do. So, but yeah, I'll open up the floor if anyone's keen. Sweet, see you later. No,
that defining moment when you switched, how did that feel? When you knew, I'm back on track.
It wasn't smooth. And that's the thing, it's not like I have my shit together today. We all come up and down, left, right, squiggles here and there, everywhere. It's just like, as long as you're progressing forward and there's movement forward towards the thing, towards a goal and towards a forever chasing endpoint, for me, that's what it was like. There were obviously key moments in my life that really, one of them was getting on top of my trauma. Little did I know that I was in this vicious cycle of self-sabotage for many, many years. I thought because I was cheated on in my younger days, that's why I was having issues with connection and in intimate relationships. Turns out that I actually hated myself. And so whenever a female would tell me that and try to tell me that they think I'm a good person, I would actually think that they were genuinely lying to me. Subconsciously, I knew on the surface they weren't. But subconsciously, I thought they were lying to me and being disingenuous. So I pretty much self-sabotaged every relationship for nearly 10 years because of it. And so my life is full of these small little wins, small little epiphanies where I finally grab hold of a certain... Because sometimes you can rationalize things to yourself and you know better. Like you're like, I know I shouldn't feel this way, but... And it's because it's not logic. You're trying to build a logical picture, but you need to believe it in your heart. And as cliche as that sounds, if you don't believe it in here, then no matter how much logic you try to throw it, because everyone always believes that if you have logic and emotions driving a car in the front seat of a car, everyone always believes it's logic that drives. No, it's not. Your emotions steer and drive us everywhere. Logic can only provide input and try to convince you of which way to go. Hence why you go, I should really go to the gym today, but I can't be fucked. Logic will go, but you'll feel better, you'll get your fitness up and you'll look better and you'll release all the endorphins, but then you just go, no, I can't be stuffed. I'm like, emotions drive everything that we do in life. And so understanding that differentiation going, can obviously pay a huge dividend and understanding how you connect with life.
I've got a heap of questions, but
sure.
I don't want to be selfish. Does anyone have a question, Matty?
Obviously, I saw you mentioned you were helping people through mental health and mentoring them for that. I guess there would be times where I'm sure would be struggle to break through to some people, but at the same time, see some successes, and I guess how fulfilling was that to see you personally and with the team making changes to people's lives?
In my opinion, there is nothing more rewarding than being able to support others get through a rough time, a rough trot in their life, and help them, pick them back up and give them what they need, be their confidant if that's what it is, in order to see them thrive again. It is like literally, hence why the veteran mentor is a youth mentor camp that I do. Literally one of the most rewarding experiences in my life. Yeah, I got the stories from all my war stuff and all that, but this is like the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, where I got to see these kids come in full eshays, full like youth gang, I think they're full tough, swearing, coming in with knives and shit, and they literally think that their shit doesn't stink. Some of these kids are told they're going pretty much to movie land, and then they're pretty much dumped on our doorstep. But seeing the change that can happen in 9 days with these kids, I'm like, suddenly you look at it within yourself, and you're like, man, these kids can change in 9 days, yet why haven't I changed in bloody 9 years? And you realize hard and fast, because they're open to change. Especially a lot of the issues that we face, especially with like youth crime at the moment, and with a lot of people in general, is acting out is usually a maladaptive coping strategy for not dealing with something that you've been through. I'm like, it is pent up frustration, anger, whatever it is. Usually they say sadness is just anger coming out sideways. I'm like, it is, people don't understand that the burdens and the pain and the things that you've been through in our past can really impact our present and how we actually move forward. I describe it as like a beach ball. So many people, you picture a beach ball when you try to hold underwater. Picture the beach ball as like trauma or a terrible life experience that you've been through. So many of us try to hold that beach ball underwater, and it is exhausting. You sit there, it uses all your cognitive resources, all of your energy to try to hold that underwater. Somewhere along the lines, you have to realize the fact that if you do the work and investing into yourself, I know psychology can be expensive, but if you do the work for yourself, you actually offer yourself the ability to finally get off that beach ball and allow it to exist as just a part of your life. It will always be there, it will always be around, it will always be a part of your past, but it no longer has to define you. Because so many of us can be defined by our past instead of being open to new experiences. That's why the old saying, cliche saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. They have their rigid ways, and they're not changing it, and they ain't budging no matter how hard you try. But yeah, no, it was literally some of the most, supporting others is one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. And I honestly can say it took more courage for me to face my demons than it ever did to stand firm on the battlefield. Because the shit that you can tell yourself, that is the stuff that true nightmares are made out of.
Any other questions? I've got a two-part question.
Sure.
Did you ever find yourself trying to manage what you were going through, I guess, with alcohol or substance abuse, or did you manage to avoid that?
I remember when I got out, I was working in real estate. Yeah, that's a shit of a profession. I was drinking a half bottle of red by 8 a.m. in the morning before I go to work. And I was living with my brother, and we still laugh about it. Because we talk about it every now and then, and he's like, yeah, I saw you. It started as a swig, just turned into like a couple of glasses. No glasses, I was literally just swinging out the bottle. And he's like, I thought it was pretty weird, but I was like, yeah, you do you, mate. But that's the thing, 10 years ago, that there was no conversation around mental health. This conversation, you wouldn't have a guy up here talk about mental health 10 years ago. Like, this is new. And this is like frontline sort of stuff. And you're all here willing to be a part of this conversation. Yes, man, like, I've always tried to avoid alcohol at a great, because I knew very quickly that alcohol was a depressant. And the short buzz I got out of it then literally spiraled me into the depths of sadness. And I could be sad for days, weeks, months, years. But yeah, I've done substance, cocaine, everything in order to try to get myself back up, try to live a life that I thought I had lost. I just wasn't ready. I couldn't see the evolution of what I'd done. I could see everything I've lost in life. I could see all the mates that I'd made on my tours. I'd seen the hyper masculine stoic dude that I once was, who could stand firm in the battlefield and do SAS selection and put him through the rigors of hell. And now here I am standing up here talking about mental health and vulnerability, going, yeah, I'm tough as. But and even to this day, I still can hear my ego going, just shut up, you pussy. That will happen to everyone. It's a part of everyone, because we're so deeply entrenched in so many of us to not engage in these conversations. But the reality is, like a famous relationship philosopher Nathan Bolton once said, he had just like this. He was sitting up here doing a conference of a group of people, and he turned to the audience and said, turn to the person next to you and tell them something that you've succeeded in. And you can hear everyone turn, oh, yeah, I'm the CEO, or yeah, I run this, or yeah, I do this, and I do that. And the conversation died and fizzled within about 30 seconds. Then he said, now I want you to turn to that same person and tell them something that you regret, something that you're ashamed of, and something that you're sad about. For 5 minutes, he could not pull the audience back. Because what people miss is the fact that connection comes about through suffering and the sharing of our troubles. You connect, it's the basis of humanity. Hence why the first noble truth of Buddhism is the acceptance that life is suffering. The moment you realize that suffering is just an everyday part of life, you'll start soaring a whole new trajectory when you stop looking at the hurdles that you face as obstacles that you have to get over, going just another challenge in this thing called life. I completely ran down a rabbit hole, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But what was the second part of that question?
Well, the second part, I'm conscious of time. I feel like I could ask you questions for the rest of the night, but I guess for people to take something away, obviously, what's the process if someone is struggling? Obviously, it's often that we say just talk to someone, or, practically, I guess, what did you do, or what would you do, or what recommendations are you making if someone is feeling that they're struggling with depression, anxiety, whatever? What pathways do we have available to us that you know of? And I don't want to go too far into this, but just,
for me, I was so ashamed of the fact that I couldn't cope with my war experiences that I literally had a Department of Veteran Affairs consultant hold my hand and walk me into the GP to get my mental health care plan. Like, I could not do it. I was like, oh my God, I have failed at this thing called life, and I need a professional's help to do life. Like, how shit am I? So that's where I'm like, the opening conversations are hard to see, but the biggest fear that we all have is going, if someone does reach out to me, if a mate does turn to me and go, hey bro, I'm struggling. Like, that is literally, for most people, the biggest fear that we will ever face. Because most people are like, what do I say? And the reality is, just shut the fuck up. As brutal as that is, because I want you to remember it. Your job there is to listen. Your job there is to keep them talking. We all want to pass on unsolicited advice and be that person that gives them the great epiphany for them to solve their problems, but the reality is we all have the ability to solve our own problems. Your job is to keep them talking. Allow them a safe space, judgment-free, to try to talk their way through it. Instead of standing on top of the hole and looking in and going, yeah, mate, do this, try this, try this, try this. How about just jumping in the hole with them and being there with them until they're ready to climb out? So many of us get that wrong so often in life. But things that I did the two things that I've learned was gratitude and mindfulness. Everyone thinks of mindfulness and they think of the car mat and they hear the bell like twing, and everyone's like, yeah, that's mindfulness. And I'm like, no, that's not for everyone. It's certainly not for me. There are informal methods of mindfulness. For me, I have a motorbike. I go for a ride through the hills. Once the helmet's on, weaving through the hills, for a brief period of time, all the clutter goes and I'm focusing just on the road, giving myself a break from whatever it is that my mind is consuming me with. I'll go for a walk, listening to an audiobook, go for a hike. allow my brain the opportunity to step away from its constant barrage of thoughts. People do that in cars. People can go play golf, go hang out with mates. Whatever it is that gives you the ability to step away from wherever you are currently thinking, that is actually mindfulness. That's where some people don't have, like even smoking a cigarette, where 5 minutes, you stand there to the side and you have a dart and you have a deep breath. I'm not promoting cigarettes, don't worry about that. But you understand what I'm trying to say. Like you're giving yourself 5 minutes to take a breath and step away from whatever that is that you're doing. I could go on plenty, but I know cautious of time.
No, yeah, and I guess I'm conscious of time, but like I said, I could listen to you talk a lot more, but thank you. I really appreciate it. I guess your talk stirred a lot of emotion in me while I was listening, and I kind of was, when we put these things together, I really hope that we bring value to the audience. And during that point, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't really give a fuck if anyone else is feeling this way like I am, and it's good enough for me. So thank you.